safety equipment and flotation devices and all changed, and there were much more rigid guidelines so that would never happen again.
Yeah, even still, they even with the changes, they still didn't have enough lifeboats. But I mean, basically, they never thought the Titanic would sink. Number one, two is
right.
that they only had enough lifeboats actually for the first class passengers. They, and considering the first class passengers were a very small amount of people compared to, third class and even lower level, passengers. So they had no chance at all, and even the stories you read about how they closed the gates and stuff like that.
Right.
From what he was saying, that happened not with all the gates, but that his his wife's great uncle actually saw some of the gates get locked, where they, because they knew they only had a certain amount of life equipment.
Right. So think of all those people that not only perished, but the people that were responsible for it, the lessons that they had to come back and learn.
Maybe if they didn't even die, they survived the sinking of the Titanic. I mean, you know how horrid the rest of their life would be, having to, replay that in their mind night after night after night. So, I don't.
Yeah, now we get PTSD.
Oh, yeah.
Traumatic stress disorder. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the mind is very powerful, but the spirit is even more powerful, and we need to pay more attention to it. And that's basically why I put the reincarnation workbook, Crossing the Bridge from Life to Life Together, because I wanted people to explore the possibility of their past lives, and not only to find out likes and dislikes that could be generated by past life situations, but to help them find out why they're here this time, what lessons are they learning, and what do they need to resolve before they move on to the next life so they won't take the problems with them.
Well, how about in a situation where they had a past life where maybe it was a violent relationship? Maybe your type of workbook might help somebody from making that same mistake a second time around, or a third or fourth time around.
Exactly. Because we do tend to fall into the same things over and over again.
Yeah, it is true. I mean, I've been married a couple of times, and, this time it's been 40 years, but I tell you, you have a tendency of picking out the same, not just the same spouse or relationship, is it your likes, dislikes, what you like doing, all kinds of weird things, and I really think some of that is from a prior life that, that you still are trying to get worked out.
Oh, definitely. I agree. Like why have I always loved Chinese things? And why do certain things from India just give me so much joy? I mean, I just can't begin to tell you how much joy I get. And the physical things that we've had to deal with. Now, I've had lung problems most of my life, and that goes back to the days in Pompeii.
Oh, yeah. I tell you, that would have been a bad way to die, too. I mean, when the volcano...
It was. It's pretty bad. I almost did it again in this life, and that's one of the reasons I decided, boy, I got to start writing about reincarnation, because I was poisoned by toxic fumes in an apartment. Almost died. My dog was already unconscious.
Oh, I vaguely remember that. Why don't you tell the people a little bit about that?
Well, it was faulty. It was summertime, and it was faulty air conditioning, and I called up the maintenance people in the apartment complex where I lived. It was a high-end apartment complex, and they sent some workers over, and they did incompetent work, and they put pure sulfuric acid into the condensate line, which is the drain line out that takes the water, away from the out of the air conditioner to the outdoors. And long story short, the formic acid filled out of the condensate pipe after they taped it up with duct tape, and it outgassed. I didn't smell anything, but I fell asleep. And luckily, my twin sister called about 6 hours later, and I stumbled to the phone, and I said, something's wrong. I'm really sick. I think I've got meningitis again, because my my head was hurting so bad, and I couldn't stand up. I couldn't walk without staggering, and I hadn't had anything to drink. I don't drink, but I couldn't breathe. I just felt like I was strangling, and I managed. Something kept saying, "Get outside, get outside," and I went outside, and just coughing and coughing and coughing and coughing, and that's when I realized that there was something bad wrong in the apartment. Then I remembered my little dog. And that was rough. I had to go back in and get my dog out. I couldn't leave her in that atmosphere. So the expert witnesses that we hired, who was going to present my case if it ever gone to trial, which it didn't, said that had I slept in that toxic environment all night long, I would have died. But as a result, it cost me about 50% of my lungs because it burned up the lower parts of my lungs.
I was going to say that would have done, massive damage to your lungs.
It did a lot of damage, So as soon as it happened, this was years after I had the experience with reincarnation and done all the work with parapsychology, I immediately recognized it. I said, oh my gosh, I have almost died again from toxic fumes. And to me, I know this may sound strange, Gary, but it was a wake-up call because I wasn't working in reincarnation then. I wasn't doing reincarnation counseling. I was doing something totally different. And it was like, Lord's trying to get my attention. This happened to me almost 2,000 years ago, and now the almost exact same thing has happened again because I haven't been doing my life's work, which is to teach people about the eternal life of the soul.
Oh, wow. So if somebody feels, let's go back. Where can they find your book at?
Okay, it's on Amazon, or they can order it from any bookstore. They can find it on my website. The link is on findingmargaret.com, just FINDING, Margaret.com. My personal website, MargeryPhelps.com. That's MARGERY Phelps, PHELPS, just like the swimmer Michael, MargeryPhelps.com. Or my publishing company, CherokeeRosePublishing.com. And the links are on all of those.
All right. Now, again, they can find your previous book, too, finding...
yeah, all my books are on there, my children's books and my health books and my Finding Margaret and Crossing the Bridge from Life to Life, because that's what we do. We all do it.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't have anything to do with religion. I told somebody the other day, I said, you know what, when you die, there's not going to be a rabbi there, there's not going to be a priest, there's not going to be an imam, there's not going to be a cardinal, it's just going to be between you and God. You better get it right.
Well, I hope you're right, because, I hate to say it, I've always been scared of death my whole entire life. The older I get, the more I get scared of dying. Where some people get older, they don't care, they figure, their life, whatever, I'm the opposite. I sit there, a friend of mine who passed away a few months back, Art Bell, we were talking, and, he...
I loved the show. I loved Art Bell.
Oh, yeah. He's the one that got me back into broadcasting. I was retired, and he told me, hey, get back into it. Do an internet talk show, and, that's the way of the future, and that's why I'm doing it. But, one thing he always was himself was really concerned. And when you die, they say that go towards the light. And then he was always so confused because John Lear, a friend of his, told him, don't go to the light. That is that's basically the devil telling you to go to the light to trick you. You want to go towards the darkness. And, that really, got our...
I tell you, I've been towards the light, and that is not my experience at all. Not at all. And my mom and I had many experiences about it because she had an NDE too, near-death experience too. And we both loved going towards the light.
Yeah, that's what I told Art, but Art kept saying, he goes, but that could be a trick. And you think you're going to, to heaven or to see God or whatever the next life is. And he goes, maybe I should go to the darkness to see if You know, I guess, you know, when you pass on, that's a decision we're all going to have to make. Do we go towards the light or we don't? You know, maybe if you don't go, you know, towards the light, you go to the darkness. Maybe that's why we have ghosts and all this stuff, paranormal stuff floating around, you know, in old cemeteries and old houses and old prisons and, you know, hospitals and stuff like that. Maybe
I had a good ghost story. Do we have a minute?
Yeah, we got a couple. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I believe the story is in Finding Margaret. I had a friend who was the secretary to the chief of police of a local police department. She had been for many years. And this man had a teenage daughter. He had the one child. And he left for work one morning, and, you know, she was upstairs getting ready for school, and she called down to him, "I love you, Daddy," or something like that. And the next thing you knew, my friend was at work, and he was in his office, and she got a phone call from this policeman's wife in tears, and she said that their daughter had gone downstairs to the dining room and committed suicide.
Oh, wow.
14 or 15 years old.
That's bad.
Devastated them. Absolutely. Well, it just about destroyed my girlfriend because she had known this girl since she was an infant. So it was really hard to take. They couldn't go back in the house after her body was taken out. They could not go back in the house. So the house was cleaned out and, you know, put back in order, and all their belongings were moved out, and they put it on the market. And every time a real estate agent would show up with prospective buyers to go in the house, they would hear this child's voice calling out from upstairs, "Get out of my house. Get out of my house."
That would be enough where I wouldn't want to buy that house, I'll tell you that.
I don't ever know what happened to the house, but she was screaming, "Get out of my house." Of course, the last thing she'd done was call down the stairs to her daddy.
Well, you know, I had a friend that actually was my attorney and still is my friend. His brother's kid was living with him for a while. And all of a sudden they heard from one of the bedrooms upstairs, they heard a bang. And his nephew shot himself in the head. And the bad part, too, is that he was trying to, you know, before this happened, he was, you know, getting his house ready to sell because they wanted to, you know, leave the area, you know, because he was giving up his law practice because he was at that age. Couldn't sell the house. Nobody would buy it because you have to disclose. If people ask you of anything, if you don't disclose that somebody, you know, died in the house and how they died, they can come back and sue you. And, you know, him and his wife, I guess, has made a point of, I guess that's where they still are, up in Lakewood, Washington, and, you know, couldn't sell the house. And he told me some eerie things, you know, at night. Things would, you know, he'd hear the gunshot ever so often, or they would hear it. Not just him, his wife would hear it also. So, I mean, it was just, or footprints, or the door opening and closing in the bedroom where it happened. So, I mean, you know, I don't know if I could live in a place like that. I'd move out, even if I had to live in a tent. I just don't think I have that capability to, you know.
I think being suicidal is the worst disease that can befall a human person. It's worse than anything else. I mean, there's nothing worse than wanting to destroy yourself.
I don't know how.
And it is severe illness. It's pretty. I mean, it's everywhere. And I think people need to reconnect with their souls. That's why I've done quite a bit of suicide intervention work.
Well, I feel that anybody can kill themselves could probably kill somebody else also. Because, you know what? I mean, I had bad things in my life happen, you know? And were really bad things where I got really scared at a certain point in my life. But you know what? I never ever once thought, hey, well, I'm going to go just kill myself. You know, that doesn't solve the problem. I never had that in my mind.
Right.
And I don't understand how some people could get the thought and then follow it through. Or, you know, a couple years ago in Japan, on the internet, it was a big fad to kill yourself on the internet while people were watching you do it. And, you know, I guess it made them a martyr to a few people that didn't kill themselves. But that went on for a while where a lot of kids were killing themselves just, you know, for the drama of
tragic,
it.
Yeah. And there again,